Hey Nuggets fans, this is Ryan Blackburn of Denver Stiffs. The Nuggets own the 22nd pick in the 2020 NBA draft this season, and I wanted to share some thoughts on 3 draft prospects that would make the most sense for Denver in this spot. Let's get into it. The first prospect to discuss, Arizona freshman Josh Green. Measuring at 6'6" and 210 pounds, Green is one of the more athletic prospects in this draft class. His 6'10" wingspan and leaping ability help him operate as a plus athlete on the perimeter. And after shooting 36% from three-point range in his freshman season, there's reason to believe Green could be a quality shooter at the next level. Green's three-point release is quick, clean, and easily repeatable. His shot is effortless, generated from a solid base, and analysts believe he will shoot the ball well at the next level, given his 78% free throw percentage at 19 years old. On defense, Green is often seen jumping passing lanes on the perimeter, using his length and athleticism to defend some of the best perimeter players in the country. The Arizona Wildcats were a strong defensive team, and Green was often a big part of their defensive gameplay. He guarded small guards, big wings, and held his own against bigs by being a competitor. The question with Green is if he can hold up against big wings at the NBA level. An unlikely outcome, but not impossible. Green will defend point guards, shooting guards, and maybe some small forwards at the next level, and be a strong contributor on that end. The biggest question with Green's game overall remains if he could be more than a 3-and-D wing at the next level. For some teams, 3-and-D might be enough. For others, they will want to see some creative scoring around the rim and playmaking for other players. Green showed flashes of playmaking skill, and there's a possibility that he develops as more of a secondary playmaker if given the time to grow. The Nuggets and Green would be a great fit at 22. After trading Malik Beasley at the trade deadline this past season, the Nuggets could use an injection of athleticism on the wing to develop behind Gary Harris and Will Barton. Denver's starting wing duo has dealt with injuries for a long time, and heading into a COVID-shortened season, the Nuggets could use some fresh legs to operate on the perimeter. Green fits what the Nuggets need in the short and long term. Short term, he's an energy wing who can play spot rotation minutes as the Nuggets compete for a championship. Long term, he could be that starting 2-guard with size the Nuggets can play next to Jamal Murray. As he continues to develop as an outside shooter and perimeter defender, he becomes more and more viable as a playoff contributor. If he develops his handle, playmaking, and scoring off the dribble, then he might be a championship-level contributor. The Nuggets are in a good position to take a chance on his foundation and see what he could become if given time to develop. The second prospect to discuss is University of Colorado forward Tyler Bey. Measuring at 6'7" and 215 pounds, Bey is another elite athlete in this 2020 draft class. With a 7'1" wingspan and 43-inch vertical jump, Bey is a freak of nature on the perimeter, with the strength and tenacity to play on the inside as well. The first thing to know about Bey is how often he dunked the ball at Colorado. Bey lived above the rim by running in transition, rebounding on the offensive glass, and using his agility in the half-court to earn easy points. Bey is smooth, agile, and above all, explosive at the rim. Bey scored a lot of his points from the dunker spot, operating on the receiving end of drop-off passes in front of the rim and lobs over the top of the defense. With his 7'1" wingspan and quick leaping ability, the dunker spot was made for an athlete of Bey's caliber. Paired with Bey's above-the-rim athleticism is his nose for the ball as a rebounder. In his college career, Bey averaged 12.9 rebounds per 40 minutes, often while playing the power forward position next to another big man. Bey fights for the ball by moving his body for position when on the ground level, and when skying for the rebound, very few players can match Bey's ability to grab the ball at the apex. As the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, Bey's defensive contributions were on full display in his junior season at CU. Oftentimes, Bey was tasked with guarding the opposing team's best player. With quick hips, long arms, and an aggressive mentality, Bane often switched onto guards in CU's defensive scheme and had great success shutting opponents down. In addition to being a strong perimeter player, Bane blocks shots at the rim at an above average rate. He projects to be a quality weak side shot blocker at the NBA level. On the offensive end, Bane's overall game is limited. He displayed some touch on his jump shot in the mid-range and even hit 41% of his three-pointers on very low volume during his junior year. Overall, though, he shot 30.5% from three for his entire college career. But after shooting 75% on free throws at the college level, there is some confidence that his jump shot could translate to the next level. This is definitely a swing skill for Bane's ability to stay on the floor in the NBA. For the Denver Nuggets, Bane represents another strong fit in the short and long term. With Michael Porter Jr. hoping to blossom into a dynamic scoring forward, the Nuggets should always be cognizant of surrounding Porter with versatile, athletic forwards who can defend different types of players. This is why Jeremy Grant is such a great fit for the Nuggets, as he accomplishes the hard work on the perimeter, while Porter and Nikola Jokic collect rebounds under the rim. Bane is a similar player to Jeremy Grant, but as Grant is the better shooter, Bane is the better rebounder. In the short term, Bane will be ready to contribute to an NBA rotation as a versatile defender while operating out of the dunker spot offensively and scoring many of his points on lobs, rebounds, and in transition. Denver will always have a need for players like Bane, who can do the tough work while the rest of the offense does its thing. In the long term, Bane has some shooting and passing potential. He often scored off the dribble at CU, and while it may take time getting used to NBA athletes driving into traffic, Bane's own athleticism will give him a leg up on the developmental curve. If Bane can defend big wings at the NBA level, he will always have a spot at the highest levels of an NBA rotation. If he figures out the rest of his game offensively, especially perimeter shooting, then Bane could be a complementary starter for a championship contender. The third and final prospect to discuss is TCU wing Desmond Bane. Measuring at 6'6" and 215 pounds, Bane is merely an average athlete in this draft class. With a 6'4" wingspan and a lower vertical leap than most wings, Bane's athleticism and mobility at the next level is his biggest question mark. However, that may be his only question mark, as Bane's skill set is one of the most refined in his draft class. As a four-year college basketball player, Bane has had ample time to develop his skills in a program that allowed him to expand his role and his game year after year. Throughout it all, Bane was a 43.3% three-point shooter at the college level on nearly 600 attempts, a strong sample size that indicates his shooting will translate to the next level. Bane shoots the ball in a variety of different ways, from spotting up to coming off screens, to working the pick and roll, and even operating in isolation. Bane's perimeter shot profile is very versatile, and I believe he will operate as a quality shooter on and off the ball at the next level. In addition to his shooting, Bane's passing profile is one of the best in the class. Despite averaging relatively low assist numbers, Bane consistently makes high-level reads and executes difficult passes out of the pick and roll, off dribble drives, and in transition. Bane sees the floor very well, and while he may not be the point guard of an offense, he will be able to occasionally handle point guard duties and bring the ball up the floor next to another playmaker. The question with Bane is his athletic ceiling, and how that will affect his game on both sides of the floor. At the college level, Bane occasionally struggled to drive past defenders who weren't NBA athletes. At the NBA level, Bane's low vertical leap, shorter arms, and lack of dynamic shift to his game will most likely affect his ability to finish at the rim. Defensively, Bane will most likely stick to 3-and-D wings on the perimeter, but there are major questions about his ability to keep up with dynamic offensive players at his position, as well as his ability to switch onto quicker guards or taller forwards. He possesses good instincts defensively and made many plays at the college level. It would go a long way towards easing the mind of scouts if he made those plays at the NBA level too. Bane's fit with the Nuggets is a great one in the short term, and reasonable in the long term, at least depending upon expectations. In short term, there may be no prospect at 22 that's as ready to contribute as Desmond Bane. He's a plug-and-play offensive player because of his shooting, and if opponents are worried about his shooting, the rest of his game will open up in moderation. The Nuggets are in need of contributors for their championship run, and there are questions as to whether Gary Harris or Will Barton will be efficient enough on the offensive end to stay on the floor at the highest levels. However, the Nuggets aren't desperate for a player to be drafted at 22 to contribute in their first season. They are drafting for both floor and ceiling, and I believe they could add a long-term contributor, maybe even a starter, if they use this pick correctly. If the Nuggets believe Bane will be able to contribute athletically at the next level, then his skill set maybe make him more valuable down the road. It's difficult to teach 40% three-point shooting at a high volume, and the core of Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr. could always use three-point shooting to space the floor around offensive actions. I think Desmond Bane will be a good player at the NBA level, and sometimes that's all teams want at the 22nd overall pick. We will see if that's what the Nuggets want, or if they prefer to dream bigger at this stage of the draft. It's anybody's guess what the Denver Nuggets ultimately decide to do with the 22nd pick in the NBA draft. They could trade up. They could trade down. They could trade the pick for Drew Holiday. They could trade the pick for somebody else. Or they could sit at 22 and draft one of the players listed here. I believe that Josh Green, Tyler Bay, and Desmond Bane are great options for the Nuggets with the 22nd pick in the NBA draft. Thank you for tuning into this video by Denver Stiffs. We will see you after draft night.